I just want to add to all the guys in the room who are in a romantic relationship, there's another important date coming up on Friday the 14th. And she may say she doesn't want flowers. Don't listen, we all want flowers, guys. Or whatever it is, yeah. Valentine's Day, in case you missed it. Dan, Valentine's Day. Okay. So, as Dave said, we introduced our new series last week called We Are Every Nation London. Because church is not a building, right? It's a group of people. Just as we see on the graphic here, it's people. And as he explained, we're at one church, 3 congregations, now called West, South, and East, all with the same mission. Our mission, we exist to glorify God by making disciples and making a difference on campus, in the community, in the city, and through church planting. And he unpacked that, what it meant for us as individuals, as congregations, but as one church too. And the importance of us walking in unity. Because Psalm 133 says, how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. For there the Lord bestows his blessing, even life forevermore. And he introduced our new values, the behaviors that we believe are our distinctives here at Every Nation London, and how we want to display our mission through the behaviors to create the culture that means we will love well, we will be people of faith, and we will be on mission for God. And these are values that need to be true today, not aspirational, right? We want to trust that every person coming in, whether old or new, every visitor, every gathering, kids, young adults, students, community tea, West, South, and East, will all experience the same values that we feel are our distinctives. So here they are, if you didn't tune in last week. These are our new values. We love well. Christ-like love puts relationship first, believes the best about others, and tells the truth kindly. We are faithful and full of faith. Good stewardship sees potential, serves diligently, and steps out in faith. We enjoy God and ministry. Remaining in Jesus overflows into joy, brings satisfaction, and is attractive to others. So as Dave says, over the next few weeks, we're going to unpack some of these, and I'm going to step in to the first one today. But again, let's remember, as I'm talking, that this is we, right? This isn't the leaders. Just as Dave said, it's not just me, Dave, Tammy, Dan, and a few leaders. This is everybody. We all show our culture by our behavior. So today, we're going to dive into we love well. Christ-like love puts relationship first, believes the best about others, and tells the truth kindly. So I wonder, as you came in today, did you feel well loved? Was there a lovely person on the door in a green hoodie who opened the door for you, smiling, so as you came in? And then you went to the coffee, and they had your favorite biscuits. Isn't that lovely? And then someone passed you the milk, and you shared the milk, and it was just a moment, you know? And then you came in, and this lovely, lovely person on the kids' registration took your child, who looked resistant, and brought them in so that you could come in to church and have an amazing time. And then as you came in, did you get your favorite seat? Did they take you to your favorite seat? We all have favorite seats, I know. And then you looked up, and then your Connect group leader waved at you from across. Yeah, did you feel well loved? On the other hand, though, did you love well? Did you come in and did you smile at the person in the green hoodie as you came in? Did you maybe open the double doors so the lady with the double buggy came in and you could get in easily? When you got and found there was only a little bit of milk left at the coffee, did you take it all or did you let the next person have it, right? And when you saw the kids, and yes, I know they do this, come and steal the biscuits from in front of you, did you slap their hands away? I hope not. Did you encourage them and let them go? I'm working on it, guys, I'm working on it. And then as, you saw the kids' team, did you high-five them as they came in? These guys worked tirelessly every week, and that's what the noise is upstairs, in case you hear it. It means they're having fun, guys. It's having fun. And as you came in, did you look for the faces you didn't know? And did you greet them and say hi? Or did you just sit down in your favorite seat? Because we all need not to just feel loved, but to love well. So we're going to dive into our text this morning, which is John 13, verse 34 to 35. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. So the first thing we notice here is a new commandment, suggesting that there was an old one. What was the old? Well, up to this point, the God's followers would have been following the Mosaic law, which we find in the Old Testament. And in Leviticus 19, verse 18, it says, love your neighbor as yourself. But Jesus is suggesting that there's something different now, something new here. Love one another. We used to have a phrase called one anothering, right? That means that Jesus is saying we've got to love one another, each one of us, everyone here, all his disciples. As I have loved you, Jesus said. How has Jesus loved them? Well, to find out specifically, we need to go back to what has happened before this thing. And actually what Jesus did was something so unusual and so shocking for someone that the disciples saw as a rabbi and a teacher. So before John 13, happens to be John 12, funny enough, right? And it was the moment where Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. And they were waving palm trees and they were shouting, Jesus is king, hail the King Jesus. And they would recognize him as king. And then the disciples all went up into the upper room to share the Passover meal. And sometimes we call that the Last Supper. And we're going to pick it up in John 13, verse 2 to 5. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from his meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. Why did Jesus wash his disciples' feet? Now, I don't know, you may have been in some gatherings, some churches where at this point I might invite someone up to wash their feet as a demonstration. I don't like feet, guys. I don't. Like, feet they're not great, are they? You know, so I'm sorry. I haven't loved well this morning to demonstrate actually clearing someone's feet, because it isn't nice. It's not nice washing someone else's feet. And that's the point. This job is usually given to the lowest servant in the ranking, right? It was a time and place where people wore sandals and the rows weren't made up like the A4. They were all dusty and covered in sand and stuff. And the servants would have to wash the visitors' feet as an act of welcome into the house. I was trying to think of a modern day equivalent, and I do remember showing up at someone's house once. They were shoes off place, you know, and being handed a brand new pair of slippers to put on. Like, I felt loved at that point, I have to say. But like for Simon, who was sitting at the table with Jesus, this was a humbling experience. Why is my rabbi and teacher washing my feet? In fact, he initially refused. But that was the point. Jesus was showing them just how much he loved them. So let's move on to John 13, verse 12. When Jesus, had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly, I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. It was an act of humility. It was such an act of love. He didn't use his position of rabbi and teacher to lord over them, But he was willing to do the humble things. And doing so, he was showing them just how much he loved them. And actually, if you look through the whole of Jesus' life, you'll see he demonstrated servant leadership. He got down and served people in their place of need, whether it was pleasant or not. He literally got down in the dirt. In 2016, Dan and I moved into a new house. We did the opposite to everyone. Actually, the estate agent couldn't believe. Everyone else is moving out to the country, to get the bigger house for the same money, have the country experience. But we'd just come on staff, and we needed to be closer to West Kent. So we downsized, doubled our mortgage, and arrived in this house on this day, and unpacked the van, and realized, oh, dear, we don't really fit in this house. At which point, Wolfie and Ali arrived. And you can see Wolfie was quite stressed for us. He's standing in the kitchen looking, and there's literally appliances and boxes everywhere. And he's like, I don't quite know. How are you guys? What can I do? What can I do? Wolfie was always a doer, right? What can I do? And I said, well, Wolfie, the reason, we haven't got any space is because they left this old washing machine. But we've got our washing machine. So we need to pull this one out, push that one in, and then get rid of the old washing machine. So Wolfie, I can do that. Let me take that. I'll take that. So Dan and him get it into the car, and he drove off. Well, it was fine until he got to the first red traffic light. And I don't know if you're aware about what happens with old washing machines. It's like they may be empty from what you can see, but there's old stagnant water that lives in the bottom tray. So as he braked, this stagnant, smelly water just flowed out into his car. And sadly, when he got to the tip, it was closed. So he had to live with the stanky, horrible water for the whole of the weekend until Monday morning when the tip opened, Sometimes helping others, it can be a bit stanky, but it means so much and shows so much. After washing their feet, Jesus predicts Judas' betrayal. He then predicts Peter's denial, and then he made this statement. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. By this, the world will know that you are my disciples. It's how we love one another that will set us apart for this world. We will be different and stand out from a crowd just on how we treat one another. Because sadly, we as a human race aren't that great at loving well, are we? There's a problem. And Jesus actually spoke about our time in Matthew 24, verse 12, where he says, sin will be rampant everywhere, and the love of many will grow cold. Our culture is conditioned to be the opposite of love. Heartless, easily offended, and cold. It's about me, myself, and I. I do me, you do you, and we don't even think about how my actions affect others, right? You've only got to look at social media, right, to see how people just tear each other down without even thinking about the consequences. I literally saw a social media post about the new Doctor Who. You can tell I have boys, don't you, what's coming up on my screen. Anyway, and everyone was just tearing this new guy apart. And then someone had suddenly put, if you don't like it, don't watch it. I thought, well, that's it, right? Why do we engage with things to tell people how much we don't like it? We could just walk away. The good news for us all, though, is love is not just a noun, but it's a verb. It's what my English teacher would call a doing word. It's something we can learn to do and show, and very practical, as we can see in the washing of Jesus washing his disciples' feet. This means it's actually a skill we can develop. We need to show love, not just say it. Hence the flowers on Friday, guys. Because we don't just want to love, we want to love well. And none of this is easy. We need some help. In Philippians 1, verse 9, it says, and I pray this, that your love will keep on growing in knowledge and every kind of discernment. And I love it in the Message. In the Message, it says this. So this is my prayer, that your love will flourish, and that you will not only love much, but well. Learn to love appropriately. You need to use your head and test your feelings, so that your love is sincere and intelligent, not sentimental gush. Live a lover's life, circumspect and exemplary, a life Jesus would have been proud of, bountiful in fruits from the soul, making Jesus Christ attractive to all, getting everyone involved in the glory and praise of God. This was the verse that was behind Wolfie's The Art of Loving Well book that he wrote over 10 years ago. It's an amazing book, and he himself exemplified all these things in here. Like, he actually unpicked the skill of loving well. So we're going to unpick some of those skills this morning. We grow up well was the first one. We are committed to personal growth, not remaining stagnant. And this requires feedback. Now, I told the whole of the first service I didn't like feedback. So they were all coming up to me in the service and going, I know you don't like feedback, but it was good. But we need feedback, even though we hate it, because otherwise we won't grow. We need to be vulnerable, guys. We need to be asking people to give us feedback, because otherwise we're not changing. We're staying where we are. So we need to be vulnerable, put ourselves in community, with a community that will challenge us to improve and grow. Tammy is my boss. And a couple of years ago, she said to me, so how can I help you grow this year? And one of the things I really struggle with, my family will tell you, is making decisions. I'm not great at making decisions. I prefer to just, go with the flow. If it was movie night, guys, whatever you want, don't worry about me. Unless it's Mother's Day or my birthday, then I will take it. So Tammy said, when she said that, I was like, you know what? I want to be a confident decision maker. So she held me accountable. Every time we met, every 2 weeks, she'd say, so what confident decision have you made this week? Which was amazing, because now I don't have it, because it's become part of my routine to make confident decisions at work and at home. But she held me accountable, and it helped me grow. Secondly, we build up well. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. We want to be builders, guys, not breakers, which means being more focused on others rather than ourselves. So when a team member arrives late, be curious to ask, is everything okay? Before you either huff and puff and don't even mention it, right? Or, what time? What time's this? I had a situation with one of my team members who was late. And she came in. I was like, are you okay? She went, yeah, my parents' house just burnt down in the Philippines. And they lost everything. So I've just been on the phone trying to organize some clothes for them to take out. I'm like, imagine if I'd have said, oh, honey, 10 minutes late, right? That would have not been loving well. We really need to be thinking carefully and using our words and just giving people a chance. We feel well. That's exploring your iceberg, the bits inside, the inner health. Because what's happening in you will come out of you, whether it's good or bad. Which means we need to work through our feelings, not just push them down. Wolfie talks about stuffers, right? Because if you stuff, what generally means is you become quite passive-aggressive, right? But also you can puff, which means you explode regularly and keep everyone on edge. I remember my mum, hi mum, I know she's online. She had a boss once that you never knew what his mood he was going to be in when she opened the door in the morning. And that's really stressful, really stressful. Dan and I were talking about this, and we agreed that when we first got married, Dan was not a puffer or a stuffer. He was a huffer, right? He would huff all the time if I got it wrong. And the trouble is, if you don't tell someone what you've done wrong, you can't stop doing it. You just keep repeating over and over again, and it just becomes a source of irritation. So you have to have a conversation of if someone is making you huff. And I just want to say up front, it's okay to go to counseling. I don't know if we've been great about promoting this in the church, but if you have stuff that's going on inside and you don't quite know what's going on and you need help, more than the prayer team can offer, more than a Freedom Day, then it's really good to go and get some counseling. 2 years ago, Ali told me I needed counseling. I struggled going, I have to say. But I had this anger that I was really struggling with, and I couldn't really focus on where it was coming from or what it was about. And my counselor really, really helped me. So, we also speak well. We recognize, right, that words are powerful. We learn to control our tongue. We should pray, pause and pray before sending that email back. Particularly if you're about to use capital letters. You know, and it's really important. Words just stay in our minds forever, particularly if people are wired that way. I have sat through many freedom hours, and people are in bondage because of things a teacher or a parent or a spouse or a friend have said over them, and it's stuck with them, you know? So we really need to be careful how we use our words. But God can deliver from that, just to say. And obviously we need to listen well. Active listening that seeks to understand more than being understood. I really thought I was a good listener. And then 10 years into our marriage, Dan and I went on the marriage course. And I realized, actually, I was pretty bad at it. Because while he's talking to me, I'm preparing my answer, my comeback, the why. I'm not really listening to what he's saying. I just want to defend myself. Just me? Anyone else? Okay. And like, are we always in a rush on a Sunday? You know, when the music finishes and, you know, we say amen, are we ready to connect with that person in front of us who maybe it's their first time in church? Or are we looking over their shoulder at, oh no, the biscuits are going. Oh no, there goes my friend. Are we fully present with them? Are we listening well? And we need to fight well. We need to help deal with conflict. I don't know if there's an English thing in me, what it is. I am very conflict averse. But I've realized that having healthy conflict is vital for us having a loving, well culture. Conflict done well avoids artificial peace, as both parties get to air their view and come to an agreed decision. Or agree to disagree. But at least it's out in the open and you've had those conversations. And finally, we forgive well. Again, we teach this on Freedom Day. The problem is we think that forgiving someone somehow means that what they did was okay, but that's not true. But holding unforgiveness gives rise to bitterness that can cause us to harm and keep us in bondage. Forgiveness is actually a choice, and it's an obedience to God. So that was a whistle-stop tour of the Art of Loving Well book. And guess what? You can get your own copy at the back for £10 today. You may have noticed we have a strapline for each of our values, which we've used to further clarify exactly what this loving well means. So loving well is Christ-like love, puts the relationship first, believes the best about others, and tells the truth kindly. Christ-like, the kind of love we're talking about is anchored in Jesus and his example. You might think that's soppy and permissive, but it really isn't, because it's the same man that called the Pharisees the son of the devil and turned the tables on the money exchanges in the temple. Notice that when we look in the Bible, Jesus never humiliated anyone or called out their sin in public unless they were a leader who were leading others astray and were being hypocritical. We had this little chat last week in the youth. What would it be like if Jesus was the youth leader? We thought he would be fun. We thought he wouldn't be surprised by anything that we said or did, because he knows what's coming, right? How weird would that be? He would speak gently into our lives and the things we were struggling with, but he would bring loving correction. I also really hoped he would turn my Sprite can into red wine, but we'll wait on that one. So loving well as Christ did does not mean not bringing correction, right? We wouldn't be loving parents if we didn't bring correction and discipline our children to keep them safe and help them distinguish between right and wrong, good and bad. But we need to think Christ-like in everything we do, because Christ-like love puts the relationship first. What if you say what we fight for will determine how we fight? And our conviction is that the thing we need to prioritize is the relationship with the other person. Because discipleship is relationship with God first, then with people inside and outside the church. God is relational, and we are made in his image for relationships. This is hard though, isn't it? You know, when someone's hurt us and let us down, we just want justice. We want revenge. For the sake of unity, we need to deal with it in a way where possibly we can hold on to the friendship, particularly within our church family. That doesn't mean we don't confront bad behavior. Put in healthy boundaries where required, but we seek to forgive and work through differences and issues in a loving way. Do you know how Jesus did this? He washed Judas's feet. Let that sink for a moment. The guy that put him on the cross, he washed his feet. Christ-like love puts the relationship first, believes the best about others. Believes the best about others. Oof, this takes humility, not to jump to assumptions or conclusions. Think about how Jesus did this. He did it with a guy called Zacchaeus. He was a hated tax man who had robbed from the people, not only lining lining the purse of the Romans, but lining his own purse, right? And he got up in a tree because he heard about Jesus and he wanted to see him coming. And what did Jesus do? He didn't just ignore him, but he looked and said, "Hey, Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house today to spend time with you." Or come to your house for tea if you want the kids' version. You know, he loved the unlovable. He believed the best in people. Wolfie came into the office one day and said, "Oh, by the way, Dan and Amanda, I forgot to tell you, I put you in the book." Oh, how lovely. I wonder what he's written. How lovely to be in a book. Wait till you hear what he wrote. For example, Amanda, one of our London pastors, tells the story of how she was preparing dinner and had expected her husband Dan to be home at an agreed time. He never arrived on time, and the meal got cold and she got heated, making up all kinds of stories about how Dan didn't care and value her slaving in the kitchen. When she finally heard him coming in, she was ready to give him a piece of her mind, minus a cold dinner. But she quickly found out that Dan had had an accident on his bike on the way home. Oops. It's there in black and white. Page 113 if you want to see it. Actually, you know, Wolfie was actually quite kind because actually I wasn't just ready to give him a piece of my mind. I gave him a real piece of my mind. I didn't even look up from the cooker. And when I eventually looked up, there he was covered in cuts and bruises. So yeah, not a good way of believing the best about others. So we need to tell the truth kindly. Love without truth is insincere. Truth without love is harsh. Sometimes we need to tell the truth. For example, give feedback, establish boundaries, confront sin, deal with conflict between parties, etc., etc. It's not loving to withhold the truth, but it's not loving to be harsh either. One thing Wolfie demonstrated really well and labored with us was to get the art of having a crucial conversation. There is an amazing book out there called Crucial Conversations. But it's a way of helping us to tell the truth kindly. Sadly, I haven't got time to unpack it here, but just know there is a way of speaking to people which gets your love and your word across, like by focusing on the facts, for one, not assuming it's personal. So when that person is late on your team, saying, I picked on Tammy last time, I'll pick on Laura. Laura, I noticed you're late. Is everything okay? And then she has a way of telling me, even if it's, Laura, you've been late 3 times every last time you're serving. And I love having you on the team, but what's going on, girl? You know, there's a way of asking, using the facts, not making it about me. Laura, I know you hate me, but, you know, why are you late? You know, can you hear the difference? There's a difference, right? And if you want more, obviously get the book. The book will help you. But also, you can check out What Love Looks Like from the What Love Looks Like series when Liz spoke about peace. And even though it was about peace, it was actually about handling conflict well, because that's how we'll have real peace, not artificial peace. So if we're going to continue having a value of loving well, and guys, I love you. Like, I have been loved well by this church for many years, and I really believe this is a value that is really ingrained in us. But we have to hold each other accountable so it doesn't slip. that we don't grow cold. We need to put our relationships first. We need to believe the best. And we merely need to just really be ready to take feedback and to grow. So, how can we live out this loving well value? Got some applications for you. In 1 John 4, verse 19, it says, "We love because he first loved us." We can only pass on what we have received. So we need to receive the love of God first before we can pour it onto others. Jesus showed the ultimate act of loving well when he went to the cross for us. He lived the life I should have lived, and he died the death I should have died. And yet he still went to the cross, paid the penalty of death so that we can be in relationship with him. You can choose to receive that love today. So if you are here and you don't know the love of Jesus and you've never said yes to him, there's going to be some people up the front at the end. Do come and pray and take the opportunity today to find that love. We all need, all of us, to commit to growing in the skill of love. So you can get a copy of the book at the back, remember? 10 quid, all right? But you can't just read it, put it on your coffee table next to the bed. You've got to read it and apply it, right? And lastly, I don't know if when I've been speaking, but when I was praying for today, I really felt that there are some strained relationships that you need to deal with in your lives. Now, that might be the guy sitting at the desk next to you at work. It might be one of the students along the hall at Res, right? It might be your neighbor after you had that boundary disagreement. It might be a mum or dad that you haven't spoken to for a while. It might be an estranged sister or brother. I don't know. But it's important that we learn to love well, that we forgive as Jesus forgave, and that we put love first. So as Dave comes up and leads us in communion now, I just want to read a prayer. So won't you just close your eyes? So this is my prayer, that your love will flourish and that you will not only love much, but well. Learn to love appropriately. You need to use your head and test your feelings so that your love is sincere and intelligent, not sentimental gush. Live a lover's life, circumspect and exemplary, a life Jesus will be proud of, bountiful in fruits from the soul, making Jesus Christ attractive to all, getting everyone involved in the glory and praise of God. Amen.